Okay, thanks very much. I'm really honored to be here, and I hope I will not disappoint you, but what I will do is not, of course, not, I never understood philosophers, but they exist, I will not name them, who are able to do seminars on their own work, you know, like you read a page from your own book and then ask, what did the thinker want to say? That I'm not able to do. I will simply I will do something very simple. I must tell you something which, if you read my work, I hope it will not make you sad. I am getting a little bit tired of this, I should put it ironically, communist propaganda series that I'm doing in defense of lost causes and so on. I'm already for 2 years doing a book on Hegel. It already, to put it in Stalinist philosophical terms, exists objectively out of my consciousness in objective reality as over 700 pages of the manuscript, and it's not yet ended, but my love is there. Why I think we need more than ever pure thinking theory today, I will return to this at the end. What I want to do is just to pursue a certain line of how capitalism reacts to ecological catastrophes. Of course, I will develop some reflections apropos of two of the latest, not very threatening, at least the first one, but nonetheless known to us all, ecological catastrophes that ash cloud from the Iceland volcano and of course the south of Louisiana big oil spill. First, did you notice something? It is my friend from India, Slavoj Zizek, who is really one of the most gifted new social philosophers that I know, and is, from what I can say, a typical victim of, you know that I'm not politically correct and so on, but when I see implicit racism, even I can admit it. Like, because he is from there, he's also an excellent theorist. He did a wonderful analysis of Laclau, but you, me, critical towards all of us. But the reaction in the West is always, but you come from there, why don't you write something about Nepal, India, and so on, as if, you know, leave to us pure theory, you know, local report. He developed at a conference about communism in Berlin, where I'm practically coming from a week ago, he developed something wonderful, namely the idea that our public media even are today full of anti-capitalism, that we are even witnessing a kind of overload of the critique of the horrors of capitalism. I mean, if you open up TV, it's always this corrupted bank manager, that corrupted businessman, that company is polluting environment, that other company owns sweatshops where children work overtime, and so on and so on. There is, however, a catch to this overflow of critique. What is, as a rule, not questioned in this critique, ruthless as it may appear, is the democratic liberal frame of fighting these excesses. That is to say, the explicit or implied goal is to democratize capitalism, to extend the democratic control onto economy, through the pressure of the public media, parliamentary inquiries, harsher laws, honest police investigations, and so on and so on. But never questioning the democratic institutional frame of the state of law. This democratic institutional frame remains the sacred cow, even for the most radical forms of this, let's call it, ethical anti-capitalism. The Porto Alegre Forum, the Seattle movement. It is here, I think, that the key insight of Marx remains valid, today perhaps more than ever. For Marx, the question of freedom should not be located primarily into the political sphere proper. Does a country have free elections? Are the judges independent? Is the press free from hidden pressures? Are human rights rights respected, and the similar list of questions different, independent or not so independent, Western institutions apply when they want to pronounce a judgment on a country. The key to actual freedom rather resides in the apolitical network of social relations, from market to family and so on, where the change needed, if we want an actual improvement, is not a political reform, but a change in apolitical social relations of productions. So this is a change which cannot be made at the level of democratic elections or other political measures in the narrow sense of the term. We do not vote about who owns what, about relations in a factory and so on. All this is left to processes outside the sphere of the political in the narrower sense of the term. And it is illusory to expect that one can effectively change things by extending democracy into this sphere, say, by organizing democratic banks under people's control. Radical changes in this domain should be made outside the sphere of legal rights and so on. In such democratic procedures, which of course can have a positive role to play, no matter how radical our anti-capitalism is, the solution is sought in applying democratic mechanisms, which, one should never forget, are part of the state apparatus which guarantees the undisturbed functioning of the capitalist reproduction. In this sense only, although I find this statement today problematic, Alain Badiou was right, or at least made the right point, with his crazy claim that today the name of the ultimate enemy is not capitalism, exploitation, or anything similar, but democracy. The democratic illusion, the acceptance of democratic mechanisms as the ultimate friend of every change. And let me avoid a misunderstanding here. What I just said doesn't mean, so haha, no democracy but coup d'etat, killing, and so on and so on. All I'm saying is that democracy restrained to what we are perceiving as the core of the democratic process, multi-party elections, state of law, and so on, is not enough. That a different, let's call it, social, political mobilization, which I'm more and more inclined even still to call democratic, is the place where things should happen. What I find so interesting is how it's strictly correlative to this apparently ruthless critique of capitalism, but again, if you look at it closely, it's always directed, this kind of critique, at excesses which are not read in a classical Marxian Freudian way as symptoms, that is to say, as necessary excesses, as something which register a necessary flaw in the system, but as simple excesses which one could abolish, I don't know, through better legislation and so on and so on. So what is crucial for me is that the strict opposite to this personalized anti-capitalism, where I even think that sometimes this personalized anti-capitalism can be so brutal that although I know that people they are often attacking are scum, I feel also some sympathy for the victims. Like, do you remember a year and a half ago the scandal with Bernard Madoff? Okay, of course, a scam should be arrested, whatever. But I didn't like how they personalize it. First, you know, he was a bad guy, but as such, he was just the extreme point of following the logic of the system. He was a typical postmodern capitalist with you know, by postmodern I mean, first you gather billions, then you give half back for charity, and so on and so on. So what I'm saying is that this overload of fanatical but personalized, we like concrete bad guys.